Okay, I wanted to show a little bit more than I did in class last week. Here's the, see if I can aim this a little bit better. Here's well, I wouldn't call it a value scale, a color scale anyway. Here's ultramarine blue, and here's the Halloween orange, and here they are kind of in steps, going from one to the other. So you can see these three neutrals in here are what we're working with. Primarily, we're working with these two in shaping the elephant. The other thing that I wanted to show that I didn't do very well in class was that I've got a really soft brush here, and I'm just going to play around with it a little bit and practice before I start on my elephant. And if I just move this sideways really gently, oh, that's still a little too wet. I've got some texture there, but it's not quite what I wanted. I think I want my brush just a little bit drier. They call this dry brush, but it's not really dry, and yet I'm saying that I want mine drier than it was. Okay, so you can see how you can get some things like that happening. So what I want is, I don't want to do the whole elephant like that, but I want little places that have some of that in it. And I was trying to kind of do kind of a quickie way, and I wasn't in the right place. You kind of need to be in this Zen kind of zone, and you're just shaping the elephant. Now this is a little wetter again. I'm just barely grazing the paper, and so I've got a little bit of stuff breaking up on here, but I'm working wet enough. This isn't dry, so I can go back and fill in some of those places. But you see, I'm left with some texture. And that's what really needs to happen on this elephant. Now, the other thing about the elephant is that there's a whole lot to shaping him correctly, and particularly his face. Right now, he looks like a strange shaped carrot, a blue carrot. He really does, doesn't he? And one of the problems is when you look at him, her, this area right here and here over the eyes, the brow bone, is more prominent, and the center of the face kind of dips in. And you can kind of see it here, but it's subtle. But it does show there, and you have highlights over here. You have a stronger value kind of where this bone sticks out. And then here it goes a little flatter gray. In here, if you look at the wrinkles on the trunk, you'll see that right up in here they're kind of arched. But then as you come down, they're flat there in the center and just curve here at the outer edges. All of that's indicating shape. So if you do what I did and just make some rounded shapes, which I've taken off of here, you get a carrot instead of an elephant. A blue carrot. Yes, it happened. All right, the other thing now is that I have lifted color, and as you can see, the trunk looks blue because the blue sinks in and is setting in the paper more than the orange, partly just because it's heavier and it went on down in. So now I'm going to do a mixture because I wiped some of that off, and most of you probably don't need to do this, but in other words, this is not telling you what to do with yours, but it's saying what one could do if they were in the situation I'm in. So I've mixed a color here that has more orange in it than blue. And I'm thinking that as I layer that, that's going to kind of balance with this. Oh, we can only hope. Now, right here in the middle, this area is darker. See, the curve is different. This area is more prominent While over here, the brow bone's more prominent, and this area sinks in. In fact, one could even make a little bit of the wrinkles, although they're not really there, but a suggestion of wrinkles that dip downward if you wanted to. And that would kind of maybe make it sink in too a little bit. We'll see. We'll see. So I don't even know if I'm going to do this right. I just haven't felt very confident lately. So let's just, I may get some texture in here and I may not. So I'm more concerned with the shape in the elephant right now than I am about texture, but some of it may start to happen like right along there. So here's the thing, that's pretty thin, and if I don't go ahead and soften the edges and work with it now, it's going to just stay like that. So what I want to do is I want to soften some of these edges out. And here. And my goodness, that looks pretty orange. Actually, it might be pretty like that though. I think I'm going to leave it. I'll go a little bit grayer right here. And again, there's some nice texture coming in to this highlighted area. Oh, I see something else I did wrong. Ooh, do I ever see? See, you get these revelations right in the middle of a video, of course, because that's how it's always going to happen. On the elephant, the highlight comes all the way out here to the edge of that brow bone, out this way, the outer edge of the face, in other words. I've got mine just sitting right there. Look at all that dark there. Well, no wonder it looks like a carrot. At least that didn't help, did it? Now it's oranger like a carrot. Okay, let's pull some of that up. Okay, about like this. I don't know yet. I think I'll pull a little more color into the middle right here. So this is all pretty wet. I'm just kind of flattening it out here. And as you go up, you get up about this high, and then the head gets lighter. So I'm working into this even though this other area isn't dry yet. And I'm looking at the shapes in the head. Now here's the thing. In some ways, I'm thinking that this might even be harder than a human face simply because it's even less familiar. I'm making discoveries about what this face does. There's not a highlight here on the eyelid. There's just not one. And kind of comes down dark there. This isn't too bad right here. It's kind of got some little streaks because these are got to be the wrinkliest animals on the planet. If for no other reason, they're bigger than anything else. Okay. Whales can't have all those wrinkles. They're big, but they're well hydrated, huh? So that needs to be even darker. Here's the thing. We don't have to get there all the way yet. I'm working with some shapes. Going to leave those little twinkles in there because those look like some of what's going on in that elephant's face. And I'm coming across here. Now this is the area in the trunk where this area gets a lot darker in the middle right there. And then as you come down, it's a little bit lighter and then goes darker again. That's because, this has got a bigger bulge right here. So this, by getting this dark right here, this brings it out towards us. Okay, and yeah, this is beginning to have a little elephantness to it. Maybe I'll just get a little bit of dry brush going there. And then let's come in and let's soften these edges, because those edges don't look right. It's not that my softening is going to make everything just right, but it's going to let me get a layer down and buy some time, and then I can come back and work on it some more after it dries. So I'll go ahead and I'll get this wet and stroke through that, but leave a little bit of the texture. Now, as I get down here, I could keep on working, because down in this area, the trunk gets darker on the outer edges. So see, I'm just mixing, kind of keeping a little thing of color going here as I work, and sometimes I'm going a little bluer or a little oranger. Just, it doesn't matter which I do. What matters is that there's slight changes going on, so it's not quite the same all the way down. Now, another elephant might look at her and recognize that she's not a correct looking elephant, but to me, she's looking pretty good. You can't please everybody. Okay, so I've done something like this. Am I on camera? Yeah. I've done something like this. And now I'm going to soften the edges. But look, I skipped and left some little openings there. Those are going to start to suggest wrinkles without making a bunch of lines in here. A bunch of lines can look so artificial. You see, all of this is the wrong shape. And we're going to come back and build. We're going to build there. We're going to keep building. We don't get there all in one whack. I mean, sometimes when I do a person, there might be an area that's got, 20 layers on it, maybe even more in some places, to get everything in balance so that the shapes look right. So this is a little bit tricky in the painting of it. And then you're kind of doing a portrait of an animal. So it's a little bit hard to get everything going right. There was a time when we did a lion who was laying with his head upside down. And he was really difficult to do. Now, see, this has got some really nice textural things happening. There's a little bit of stronger orange right in that area right there. I hope that holds as it dries, because, now I'm getting really pleased with this, okay? I can see the potential in it. It certainly doesn't look right yet, but I can see the potential in it. Now, the ear is a little different thing going on here. We know that this ear is pretty much flat, and yet it's kind of beat up, and it's wrinkledy. So it's got some things going on in it, but we're not building a real strong, deep, rounded areas. And we have an extra dark area right along here, but that's just because that's in shadow next to the head. But here we're building dimension into the face. Here, you can get it almost any which way you want, and it'll still work as long as it feels like it's a flat, thin structure. So let's go ahead and put some color in here. And you could pre-wet this ear or partially pre-wet it. You can treat it any way you want to. I've got a lot of orange right here, and I think I want to let some of that orange continue to dominate, but not that much. Well, let's go in here with something like this. And okay, so I'm just using the tip of my brush, and I've got my hand back here, and I can see wrinkles coming from, these edges. These wrinkles kind of pierce up that way. And so I'm just kind of doing that. And some areas are wet. Some areas I'm going to run into dry paper. And some areas might get more blue on them. Okay, well, I wanted a little texture there, but I didn't get it. You're not always going to get what you want. And I certainly am not that good with this kind of technique yet. And okay, so this ear is getting a little darker, and let's just go ahead, and this is real blue in here. I think I would just like for it to be darker, but not necessarily quite that blue, because I want it to feel like it, well, like it's just in shadow, so it's dull. That may work against me. I may have to add later. I might add a layer of blue on top of that. That could happen. You know what? This ear, it's a little bit darker right in through this area. I think I'm gonna pull that in because that's just a little more shaded next to the head, I think. Now most of what I'm doing is wet, totally wet and wet. So I'm not going to get interesting textures. So I might want to keep working on it, or I might want to stop and let it dry so I can see if I can put a little more texture onto it later. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to dry this and just work on this area just a little bit, and then that's going to be all of this video. Okay, I'm relatively pleased with what's going on here. Now, here's the back of the elephant. I thought I'd mention this too, because I've got a lot of you just working wet on dry a lot. And for some of you, it's been pretty hard because you're newer at it, or you're having problems working wet enough when you work wet on dry. So I'm going to suggest that if you're fighting with this, or if this is making you nervous, that you come in and do some of this, particularly some of your first layers. It's really the first layers that get scary. Do some of the first layers by pre-wetting, carefully pre-wetting the area, and then using a little bit stronger mixture paint and coming in, and you can drop your color in, and you can have quite a bit of control over it. Because, let's see, let me do this. Because when this goes down and your paper is wet, you have time to kind of mess with it and adjust it without damaging the look. And if you want to get one area lighter than another area, you can do that. You can take your partially dried brush, your moist brush, and you can pull color out. You can kind of tease it around, adjust it. You could dry this off and pull color up if you wanted more highlight, or you could come in with stronger color and put more in. You can keep messing with it for a little while as long as that base is wet. So this leg needs a lot more shaping. Oh, I was going to do this, though. See, this leg needs to have what I just did to that one, to this one, too. Okay, I'm going to now work on getting this part of the trunk to feel bulkier, bigger around, like it's more prominent. See, right now it's just got a little dark thing down the middle, and that's not even dark enough. So let's get stronger color here. Let's just look. I'm going to look at the direction that these wrinkles are going while I'm at it. Although I'm not doing the dark wrinkles exactly. Well, maybe I am. We'll talk about that later. We could talk about that in class. Yeah. I think I want a little more orange in that. I don't think that's going to recede quite enough. There we go. So now I'm going to soften those outer edges. Okay, this needs to be bigger, and oh, then it goes wider right across here, and then it begins to cave in, become concave. Well, not really concave. I don't know. I'm not there with the elephant, quite frankly. I'm lacking elephant experience. I think it's Linda said the other day she's ridden on one. We'll have to ask her if she noticed the shape of the head. I think she was a little girl. Okay. See, I'm just carefully adjusting, and I've got, yeah, I might even make some strokes go in that direction there. Coming down a little bit. Maybe coming down a little bit there. Okay, now this is probably about as dark. Of course, it's not dry yet. It's probably about as dark as I want this area of the elephant to get. I may actually be about through with that area. Most of these other areas are nowhere near dark enough yet. See, I could come in here and I could add another layer onto this. It might be different than the first layer. I don't want to take my little light areas out though, but I might like to leave a few more light areas. Let's see what this could do. Well, it didn't do much. I guess I've got a little texture happening in there. So you can see that this area is not connected to that area yet. We've got a whole thing in here to do something with, so on and so forth. But you can see how I'm building this up a little at a time and working with different levels of blue or orange to make things happen. So I'll come over here and pre-wet this leg. I think that one's dry enough. I'll pre-wet this leg just as an example of what I was talking about before. And because these legs, you can't see them very much. They're pretty much in shadow, so you can't see the texture there very much. So I don't mind it if they look a little smooth. So again, I'm making it darker in here and a little lighter there to the outside. And if I don't get this dark enough, I can just come back and do it again later when it's dry. I would rather that you weren't in a hurry, that you took time to build it up carefully. I think I want a little more orange in that. Carefully, a little at a time. And just get involved in the process and seeing one area do something that you like, you know. See if you can make it balance with some other area. I'm doing right there. This area, of course, I'm not painting in right now because that's wet. That looks kind of spotty. This is not a leopard, this is an elephant. So I'm going to blend that a little more. Remember, this is wet in wet, and so it's real easy to blend the color. in some other instance, I might want that kind of color differentiation, but not on animal skin, I don't think. Okay, we'll see how that looks when it dries. But you see what I'm getting at. And then all of this has got to have more texture. I'm not going to keep on painting. I'm fixing to stop. And I'll just soften some edges. And I just keep going. See, this eye area's got to get darker. You know, things have to just keep building and building. It takes time.